pretty confident and positive in what it is that I'm gonna find. I'm so upset, like I'm shaking all over, dude.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Coop's House. So today we're back in the shop and we're working on our Cummins swap square body. And if you guys watched the video last week, you remember we finally got our front clip put on, but had a few fitment issues with our hood, and as you guys can tell, that thing is not sitting all the way down, and that's because that AC relocate bracket that we worked on so hard sits up just a little bit too high, and it hits some bracing in here under the cowl. So with that being said, today the very first goal that we're going to be working on is getting some clearance under there, cutting some of that bracing out, and if it comes down to it, we'll drop down that AC compressor just a little bit, whatever it takes. But that's going to be the very first thing that we do. We're going to get to work on that right now and hopefully get this hood to shut off.
We had some more clearance issues that we're going to figure out.
Yeah, so I think what we're going to end up having to do is cut out more than we thought. So to keep this thing looking sort of clean, I think what we're going to do is cut maybe from this corner here to this corner here, so that this is all still tied together. And then I think also probably just cut right from this line right here straight down, tie into that, and then just square this off here, because this thing ends up being a little bit longer than we thought, as well as, you know, a little bit wider than we thought too. So really we need to create as much room as possible while keeping the structural integrity of this hood. So that's what we're gonna do, and then I guess we'll just kind of go from there. So I'll mark out what I need to cut with the tape here, and we'll get to cutting here in just a minute.
Okay, so we got it bolted down, ready for the test fit. You ready?
Yep. See what it do.
Well, I can't see that. I mean, it's kind of flush.
I don't think it's hitting. I think we're good. Can't tell. Lift it. All right, come down. Oh. That brace is touching the edge, but the belt and everything clears. I can see daylight all the way through, but that brace right there is against the edge of the compressor itself.
We probably cut that a little shorter.
We can cut it off a little bit, like back to this, and then be perfectly fine right across it.
Sick.
So that actually helps our feelings a little bit, because the only thing that it's hitting is actually that tab that we've been over, and it's touching the very edge of the compressor where the bolts are. So that means that we don't actually have to modify our bracket at all. So it's gonna be just fine. It's touching right there.
Oh yeah,
right on
that definitely cut that off.
Yeah, so we'll be perfect. We'll be perfectly
that
fine
back
there.
there is fine. Just modify that one a little bit.
Yep, just trim that just a little bit. So we're gonna pull it back off and trim it. So what our game plan is to actually take panel bond and put on the back of these. So you can tell we bent it down just a little bit so that it kind of matches that cowl. But once we panel bond it back right there, that'll hold in place, and then all of that will look perfectly fine.
And you can tell where the clear coat didn't get from the bracing. So
yeah, that being said, I mean, we're gonna need to do something about all this bare metal right here anyway. So what we may do is just, since we have to repaint the bed and a couple other parts, we'll just take this hood off, prep the bottom of it, shoot just the bottom, the top of it will be fine. So that won't be that big of a deal.
yeah,
No
sweet.
problem at all.
Just do a good old cut and buff on the top, and
right.
we'll be done with the hood.
Sweet.
Alrighty guys, so now that we got our hood trimmed and fitting, you guys can see it fits right there along the top of that fender. So that's absolutely what we want. So we got that knocked out. The next thing we need to do is go ahead and get to work actually restoring these bolts that came off of this thing, because if you guys are priced a bolt kit for one of these trucks or any restoration, you guys know it is $300 to $500 just for the bolts to put one back together. So we found a way that we're actually going to be able to use the ones that came off of it, clean those up, make them look brand new and not have any problems. But we do have one issue. You can see right there, they're still painted white, the color of the truck that it was originally, and all these other ones are just absolutely rusty. So we figured out how we're gonna restore these things. What we're gonna do first is go ahead and throw them in some paint stripper here. It's gonna take all that paint off and all of that good stuff. And we also bought this tumbling vibrator cleaner thing, as well as some tumbling media. So what we're gonna do is throw these bolts in this paint stripper for a couple hours, let it sit, loosen up all that stuff. Then we're gonna throw them in the tumbler, leave them overnight, and see how well they clean up. Alrighty guys, so it's the next day here and we left these bolts in this tumbler all night long. So they've been in here tumbling for probably, I don't know, 10, 12 hours, something like that. So these look absolutely phenomenal compared to what they looked like just last night. So these things are pretty much ready for that black oxide coating, which is something we've never done before, but we have watched some guys online. So we're gonna see if it works out for us as well. We did order the same kit that they used. So that should get these looking back just like they did from the factory, aside from being paint matched, obviously. But if you went and bought a bolt kit to put something like this back together, it would actually come in a black oxide, sort of a satin black type look. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go over here, we're gonna open up this kit, see what came in, see if there's anything we need, and hopefully turn these things black. Alrighty guys, so we got our black oxide kit here, and this is supposed to be a dry seal kit, so it doesn't leave it feeling oily or anything like that. So we've got our sealer concentrate, which seals it after we finish turning the part black. This is our black concentrate, or black oxide concentrate. So this actually mixes 1 part concentrate to 9 parts of distilled water. So we're actually gonna have to go get some distilled water, and honestly, this is supposed to not take very long at all. Apparently, it'll turn your part, it'll turn the bolts black within 3 minutes. So this is supposed to be a very, very fast process. So we're gonna go pick up some distilled water, come back, get this stuff mixed up, and we're about to find out how it works. I'm super, super excited about this. Then it says clean it off immediately in clean water, and then right into the sealer for about 2 minutes. Alrighty guys, so we actually ran a test batch of these parts, or these bolts, through our black oxide kit, and you can tell it turned them black for sure. They're not perfect, so there was still a little bit of paint and stuff on them. So what we're gonna do, now that we know that it works and how it works, we're gonna go ahead and take those out of that tumbler. We're gonna take them over to the bench grinder. I bought a wire wheel to go on it. We'll just kind of run over them, clean them on up, make sure that everything is off of them so that we can bring it back over, throw it in the bucket, go through the whole process again, and then get them looking like this. I'm really, really happy with that overall. So get it where you guys can see it. Really, really happy with that for the most part. Again, it saved me like 500 bucks for a bolt kit, and I'll be able to do this several more times with this kit here. So really good deal and worth the time. So we're gonna go ahead and pull these out of the tumbler, go over, clean them up on the wire wheel, go through the black oxide process.
It was a time lapse, so you can't really catch it.
No, pretty sure this wire wheel just caught the bolt and I don't know, something happened, but it caused this side to come loose. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you wear safety glasses.
Or safety squints.
Or safety squints.
Oh, yeah.
Lefty tighty. Oh no, this one's righty tighty. Alrighty guys, so you can see right here we actually finished up our black oxide process. So you can tell that that right there was the first batch that we did as a test piece, and this is the second one. So it's still not perfect because there is still a little bit of rust, a little bit of paint left in places. So really and truly, the best way to do this would be to throw these in a sandblasting cabinet, hit them with a sandblaster, clean them up real good, and then put them through this black oxide process. But I will say that this looks a whole lot better than it did. At least now it's not painted yellow, painted white, extremely rusty, anything like that. So I think this is something that we're gonna be able to live with and we'll be able to use on the truck unless we decide to redo them later. But for now, this is good. So right now, since this took so much time, we're pretty much gonna have to call it a day for today. So I think what we're gonna do next is go ahead, snatch that front clip off, because we found that once we try to let this thing sit and then we try to start it, we've got a fuel leak, so we lose a prime. So what we found is that we have a fuel leak at the injection pump. So I think we're gonna go ahead, pull that front clip off and be ready to access that. So that way, when we come back out here tomorrow, we'll be able to go ahead and get that pump off, tidy up a few things under the truck so we can go ahead and throw that all back together and hopefully be ready to drive this thing. So let's get this thing snatched off.
Oh.
Yeah.
That dude was brittle.
It was. Just breaking off in pieces.
That's no bueno.
Alrighty guys, so we got our seal replaced right here between these two pieces, between the pump head and the pump itself, where we actually had our fuel leak. I was able to find a video online of a guy that actually replaced that without pulling the whole pump, because to be completely honest, I was nervous about pulling this. I wasn't sure, haven't been through one of them. There's a whole lot of small parts and a lot of things that can go wrong, so I didn't want to risk that. So we got that replaced anyway. Next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and pull this top hat off, because we do have a 3600 RPM spring that we're gonna be putting in there. Apparently from the factory, these things are limited at 2800 RPM, so therefore they run slower, they don't get as much fuel and all of that. So if I put that 3600 spring in there, it should up the miles per hour, should up the RPMs and all of that, the overall power. So that's what we're gonna do next. We're gonna pull this, hopefully get this spring replaced, and then we're gonna work on getting this thing started up, make sure we have no more leaks, and see what difference it made. So here we go. too. Alrighty guys, so it is the next day. We spent quite a bit of time last night trying to get this thing started after we put the seal in the pump and replaced the spring and all that stuff. So we're still having a fuel prime issue. Not sure what's causing that other than I guess it's just taking absolutely forever. So we noticed we did have another leak at the fuel filter. So we went this morning and picked up a new fuel filter and actually did away with the sensor that's in the factory filter. So it's just a straight filter now. So we're gonna put that on and then hopefully get this thing primed. We also put our batteries on charge and left those on charge last night, so we should have some good hot batteries that should turn this thing over with no problem. So with that being said, we're gonna change out this filter, hopefully get this thing primed, and then hopefully we can finally get this thing to start and hope we didn't mess anything up when we went through the pump. So anyway, here we go.
What happened here?
I'm not sure. So we still have a no start issue. We're still not getting any fuel to any of the injectors except number 1 and number 6, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me because I would think that it worked down the line, but I know that's a timing thing and all that. But what we have found right here that we didn't notice before is there is a crack right there on our fuel pump housing. I don't know if you can see that on camera or not, but we didn't notice that before, I guess because it was leaking here at the pump, so it wasn't under that much pressure. But now that all of that is sealed up, we realize that there actually is a leak there. And we also have a leak right here above the fuel filter, which I can't figure out what that piece is either. I've looked it up and I don't know if I'm the only one that has ever had this problem or if anybody else has ever had it, but if they have, they didn't talk about it online. So I'm not finding anything for that. Called the parts house. They're not sure what the part is either. He looked at an exploded diagram and apparently there is a square gasket in there somewhere or something like that. But this is creating a whole lot of problems. I did call them and they did say they are gonna warrant that fuel pump because it is basically brand new. We just bought it and put it on. So they're gonna replace that. We're gonna figure out what that other part is. So with that being said, I guess we're about to run to town again, pick up a couple other things, come back, replace that fuel pump, see if we can figure out what's going on with this fuel filter, get all these leaks stopped, and then hopefully once we get to that point, then everything's sealed up, we'll start getting fuel to the injector. So I guess it's time for another run to town. Alrighty guys, so we got our fuel pump put back on, tried to start this thing, no luck. Went back and looked at a couple of videos of some guys that were replacing these springs, the governor spring, just like we did in here, and I'm afraid we may have broke something inside. I know we heard a sound earlier and wasn't sure exactly what it was, but it may not be good news. So what we're about to do is we're about to go back into this pump and we're gonna hope that nothing is broken. And I was a little bit concerned about it to begin with when we put this thing together, but I guess the only way to know for sure is to tear back into it and see what exactly we have going on. Here's crossing our fingers, hoping for the best. but I'm not super confident. So I guess we're gonna find out. We're gonna tear into this thing. We'll know in just a minute what's going on. The bad part about this is the fact that I'm going into this pretty confident and positive in what it is that I'm gonna find. Like, I'm so upset, like I'm shaking all over, dude. Just from lack of knowing, man. Like I thought that I had done enough research on this that I knew exactly what it was gonna take to go into this thing.
Well, being a diesel mechanic doesn't necessarily mean perfect on the first time of
I'm
everything.
not a diesel mechanic. I'm far from that, my dude.
First time for everything.
I guess so.
You live and you learn. Trial
I
and
hate
error.
it, man. Ugh. I'm worried. Like, I would love to go into this and that not be the case. But I just don't think that that's what's going to happen. There was fuel in it, but there was no fuel coming out of it. So that just, I'm worried. Like, I literally like the length of this screw from knowing. Well, I heard something snap back, so
Ooh, be careful.
we're okay. We're okay.
So what part is it now?
This piece right here.
Well, there's definitely fuel in there.
There's fuel in it, but we're just not getting fuel out, which I don't understand. But we have fuel up to that point, and that's not broken.
Yeah. So that's the part that you was thinking that was broke.
Yes. I was worried. I was worried, but yeah, that definitely.
Do you feel better?
Oh yes.
Okay. As long as you feel better.
Yep.
Now you can stop shaking like a little girl.
Yep. Now we got to put it back together and start back over with our prime.
Oh, look on the bottom side of that. See if there's anything wrong with that internally.
I'm just gonna push that out real quick so we can see what we got.
And just look that over. I don't know if those are like relief valves that you can.
Spin it. Let's see what 6 does. Go ahead. We got fuel there. Go ahead. So guys, I've been fooling with this truck for 4 or 5 hours, something like that, and I still don't have fuel to injectors 2 through 5. I have fuel at 1 and 6, but nothing in between. So I decided it was time for me to go back into this injection pump, and when I did, I finally found my problem. So if you look down inside the pump right here, I don't know how well you can see it, but I'm gonna try to show you on camera. You can see it right there. There's a crack, but if I put the screwdriver in there, you can see it. It's right there. And I can actually hook that edge, so I know it is definitely broken. So what happened was when I put the top hat back on earlier after replacing that governor spring, just from lack of knowing, lack of understanding, and things like that, I didn't back the fuel screw back out, and there's an actuator arm in there that is very common for guys who do this for the very first time. When they put all that back together, that fuel screw sits down on top of it, so when they bolt everything down and bolt it down tight like it's supposed to be, it puts pressure on that and it'll break some of those hard parts in there. That's what happened with me. I didn't know. Nobody online mentioned this in any of the videos that I watched or any of the instruction manuals or anything like that. Nobody mentioned that. Nobody mentioned that that was a problem. And so I didn't know how that was supposed to work. So when I put it all back together, I left everything as it was, went to bolt it down, and I do remember hearing a slight pop, but I didn't think anything of it. I thought maybe things were just settling in place or whatever. So I didn't think that I broke anything. But now that I've actually looked into it and I found that little crack piece and all that, I know exactly what happened. But I will say that I won't do this again in the future. So unfortunately, I did make a $500 mistake. That's very unfortunate, and I absolutely hate having to spend money that I don't have to spend, especially when it's something that goes wrong just because of lack of knowing. But with that being said, I do have the new pump ordered. It'll be here in just a couple of days. It's a completely refurbished pump, so it's basically brand new. That's probably a good idea anyway, considering this pump is the original pump on the truck from '89. So it was probably time for that to be gone through anyway. So we're waiting for that to get here. Once it gets here, the only thing we'll have to do is bolt it on the truck. But I am going to go ahead and replace that stock spring with a 3600 spring. But I will do it the right way this time because I learned. But with all that being said, guys, we appreciate you tuning into this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out some of the others that we have over here on the side. Subscribe to this channel, and we hope to catch you on the next one. Deuces.